Hello and welcome to Iridium Rock and Metal Reviews. Today I'm going to do another best of rock and metal in the year 1992. If you've been watching my videos, I'm sure you know the score by now. Name my favourites of that year. In 1992 I got my top 7 and I'll do my least favourite to my favourite albums. I remember all these 7 are my favourite albums of that year. I'll do some honourable mentions as well. And it's been great, to, like I said before, to listen to everyone's top albums or top album of that year. Keep them coming and give me some recommendations of stuff that is not on the list as well, and I might not have heard that band. So, right, we're going to go from number 7. Remember, this is my least favourite of my top albums. So, Stone Temple Pilots and Core. I don't know, these are a bit of a strange one. It was sort of roped into the grunge scene a little bit, but I'm not so sure. They had a bit of a sound of their own, really. Scott Weiland, obviously another one who's passed away, but brilliant frontman. Really good voice. I caught these live once when they come to London on the Purple tour, I think it was. But this album was great. It did have a grungy sort of sound to it. I can see why it was roped in, but yeah, again, it was something a little bit different from that period. I really got into Stone Temple Pilots. This was a great debut. Some of the main tracks on here that I liked. The opener, Dead and Bloated, brilliant. Sex Type Thing, good single. They had Creep, an acoustic single. I suppose it had a sort of Nirvana-ish sort of sound to it, although I prefer this band much more than Nirvana. Another single, Plush, which is great, and Cracker Man. I love that song. Real good rocker, that one. So, yeah, love Stone Temple Pilots and Core, and I give that 8 out of 10. Right, my next one, number 6, Pantera, Vulgar Display of Power. This was a lot more consistent for me than Cowboys from Hell. Really got into this a lot. When I was younger, when it came out. Real menacing album. I don't think they quite, I think on the next album the guitar sound was so good. I sort of sometimes compare the albums, and I think the guitar sound on Far Beyond Driven was so superior, probably the best guitar sound I've ever heard on an album. And sometimes I compare these albums a little bit, but I prefer the next album, but this is still so strong. A New Level, Walk, the single, brilliant. Sounds fresh still today. Fucking Hostile, real menacing song. This Love was brilliant. It showed that different side to him. By Demons Be Driven was brilliant, and Hollow as well. Love that song. Absolutely loved it. So a real strong one. It's going to be a lot of people's favourite album from that year, and I can see why. Well, my number 5. First time they're going to be on this list. This weren't their debut album, but this is my favourite album of theirs. That's Still Heart and Tangled in Rains. Singing on this, I mean, I know it came a bit late. 92 was a bit late for them singers that had that real high voice, but this guy, I think he's, if I pronounce it right, Mike Macevic. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. I'm sure someone will correct me, but this was a real rocking album, really heavy, but so melodic. And a little bit of trivia for you: this band Still Heart, they did the soundtrack for the film Rockstar. Have you ever seen that film? If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's brilliant. And this was filled up with some real heavy tracks. Loaded Mother starting the album off. Just listen to that. You got everything you want from a band. Brilliant guitar solos. Voice was outstanding. Dancing in the Fire was another good one I liked on that. Sticky Side Up. Brilliant album. Real strong. And I'll give it 8 out of 10. These next 4 are really strong. Really strong albums. And it was hard to sort them out in order, but my number 4 is the return of Dio to Black Sabbath and Dehumanizer. Always preferred the Dio era of Black Sabbath anyway. and this was right up there with the first, with Heaven and Hell, Mob Rules, in my opinion. Had a little bit more of a more modern sound, but they really stuck to that sound with a little bit of a twist, and Dio was on top-notch form as well. I'm just a bit shocked that they didn't carry on. Obviously there was a bit of grief again, I don't know. I don't think the album sales were that good, or the tour. But this was filled up with tracks I loved, fitted right in with the old Sabbath stuff. So Computer God was brilliant. After All, The Dead. Too Late was an excellent slow song. The song I, brilliant, just as good as anything Sabbath have done in the past. And finishing with a real heavy song, Buried Alive. Oh, fantastic. And like I said, Dio in top-notch form, and Tony Iommi as well. And I'll give this 9 out of 10. My number 3, Lynch Mob's second album, Lynch Mob. This is nearly as strong as the debut. It's so close to Wicked Sensation. But this is, I think I really got this. Wouldn't come out of my stereo when I got this. I think it's one of the first actual CDs I bought rather than a record. But filled up with brilliant songs, a bit more commercial, a little bit more. I think they had a different singer as well, but he was still brilliant. Tangled in the Web, what a song. No Good, real AC/DC sounding riff to that one. Dream Until Tomorrow, excellent slow song that built up heavy at the end. Heaven Is Waiting, had a real Lynch Dokken type feel to it. Some of the riffs on here are real Dokken-ish, but still kept that Lynch Mob bluesy sort of feel, I suppose. When the Darkness Calls, another great song. Couple on there. Heaven Is Waiting and When the Darkness Calls, not so popular with people, I suppose, but some of my favourites. And I'll give Lynch Mob 9.5 out of 10. Right, my number 2 and number 1, both brilliant. Absolutely not a weak track. You could call them perfect albums. But my number 2 is Rage Against the Machine, and Rage Against the Machine, self-titled debut album. This brought something yet again. We talk about groundbreaking albums. This was one of them. Zach De La Rocha, what an absolutely outstanding voice. Obviously, people, he's a rapper, but he brought something completely different, real menacing. Really fitted in with the music. This was something else, this album, and I think it took everyone by surprise. Obviously, real political album. But that was what they were. They was a political band. Not everyone liked their lyrics or whatever, but I think the music was absolutely outstanding. Some of the guitar work was, some really experimental stuff. It's absolutely brilliant, and this spurned a lot of massive people. A lot of bands started after this trying to sound like them, but they never sounded anything like Rage Against the Machine. They were one of a kind. Bomb Track, what a song to open up the debut album. No wonder it hit big. Killing in the Name, obviously probably the most well-known song on this album. Bullet in the Head as well, another single. Know Your Enemy, Township Rebellion, superb. Every track top notch. Their favourite album of mine was their debut album, but they still had some great albums after this, but this was my favourite. No wonder I fell in love with it. Absolutely superb, and I'll give Rage Against the Machine 10 out of 10. Which comes to my number 1, and that's Alice in Chains and Dirt. This another album that was couldn't believe what I was hearing when I first heard this album. I think I went back to Facelift. This was the first album I heard from Alice in Chains, I think, and then I went back and heard Facelift and loved that as well. But this one was far beyond anything they'd done, all their career, even though they bring out some really good stuff now, in my opinion. Dirt was a classic, and it's up there probably in my top 5 of albums of all time. I've said before about Alice in Chains, I find them different than anything any other grunge they were roped into at the time. I thought they were more metal, doomy, Sabbathy. Jerry Cantrell wrote some blinding songs and still does. And of course Lane Staley's, this is his best vocal performance by far. I think it pissed all over the next album. Well, Jar of Flies was next, but the next two albums, I think it was miles ahead of those, even though they were both good. This was the ultimate Alice in Chains album, and it is for most Alice in Chains fans. It's their favourite album, but just packed. You know, not a weak track from the beginning to the end. Them Bones, brilliant song, absolutely. You know, that odd time signature it's got in it as well. Took you by surprise, but something to have an odd time signature like that as well, and still be as heavy and as rocking, fantastic. And I think that brought out the chorus even better in that song because of the odd time signature in the verses. Damn That River, Down in a Hole, probably one of my favourite songs of all time. Rooster, God, I mean, you could just, every song is brilliant. Godsmack, Hate to Feel, and of course ending with the amazing Wood song. From beginning to end, obviously it's a really dark album, a lot of drug references. I mean, the whole album is full up with them, but it made, I don't know, it sort of transported you into a different world, this album. When you played it, it was strange, really strange, absolutely fantastic. Can't say enough about it. And of course I'll give Alice in Chains Dirt 10 out of 10. Right, just a couple of honourable mentions. Faith No More brought out Angel Dust. I really like that album. We didn't make it in my top ones, but I think it was a bit less consistent in my opinion than The Real Thing. I know it's looked at as a classic. It is a really good album. It's looked at as the best Faith No More album, but I did prefer The Real Thing. A bit more experimental than that, I suppose, but still good. TNT, they brought out a really good album on this year. I sort of lost track of TNT a little bit after Intuition. I think it's probably where the different styles of music were coming out, and I sort of lost track of them a little bit. But I picked this album up a few years later, in the 2000s probably. Went back to it and I thought, oh God, you know, I mean, they were still bringing out really good stuff. And it's spurned one of my favourite songs of TNT's, actually, a real slow song, Lionheart. I absolutely love that song. What a catchy chorus. Absolutely love it. So yeah, it's brilliant. TNT, Realised Fantasies. And also Thunder brought out Laughing on Judgment Day, their sophomore effort. Really good effort from the band. They're sort of on the fringes of Thunder, of not quite one of my favourite bands, but I really like them. I really do like them. I think, yeah, again, I mean, they've brought out music non-stop for years, even recently, and it's still good. It's still really good, but they don't quite make it to the level of the bands that I, you know, listen to all the time. I just think they're really good, but not fantastic. But good live. Caught them at Download a couple of once. That was brilliant. Really surprised me. So that's it. That's my list of 1992. So please put your comments in. Please subscribe. There's a button down there somewhere where you can press and subscribe to my channel. And keep the comments coming on Facebook, or where I share them on Facebook, or of course on YouTube as well. It's great. So I'll keep the videos coming as long as you're interested. Right, cheers. See you next time.